your work has taken you to Honduras, and I was wondering if Human Rights Watch has a presence in the Northern Triangle, Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and what their stance on that particular refugee crisis.
Great. So the question is about the Northern Triangle, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and the work that we're doing there. In fact, I was in Honduras mostly and Mexico, working on a report with our Children's Rights Division, looking at children who are fleeing from the Northern Triangle, as it's called, and trying to either get to the United States or to get protection in Mexico itself. That report should be coming out, I would say, probably in the next couple of months, so keep your eye out for it. And what we really did was we saw that in July of 2014, there was this surge of Central American children that were appearing at the southwestern United States border. And the Obama administration, declared this was a humanitarian emergency, a crisis, and then took a number of steps that were deterrent steps, basically detaining families here in the United States as one step, but also putting in an enormous amount of money to the Mexican government to interdict, and that was the word that Jay Johnson of the Department of Homeland Security used, to interdict the flow of Central Americans coming to the United States. And we tracked statistically to actually show that as the numbers arriving in the United States dropped, the numbers apprehended in southern Mexico rose accordingly. And the numbers that were being deported then summarily from southern Mexico to the Northern Triangle, to Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, rose by the same amount. And so I actually went to Honduras and I interviewed children and adults as they were being deported. Corinto is the town on the border where the buses come in as they come from Mexico across Guatemala and then dump them into Honduras. And we were interviewing people as they came off the buses about the experiences that they had had in Mexico. And we found that, despite Mexico actually having a very good law on the books, the gap between, what's written on paper and the implementation on the ground was completely different. And that children were not being told that they had the right to seek asylum. They were being detained, and they were basically told, if you do apply for asylum, you're going to spend months and months in detention. And so they were encouraged in many different ways to basically say, okay, I'll just get on the bus and go back and take their chances. What are they going back to? That we've also documented. We talked to children about why they're fleeing. They're fleeing gang violence. And this is being forced into recruitment. It's girls being forced essentially as sexual enslavement. And the way that this really functions as a refugee issue and not just as mere criminality is the impunity with which the gangs operate, and that the governments are not able to control that gang violence. And so, we believe this is a fundamental question of refugee protection. These are people that are fleeing for their lives. This is not an economic choice. This is a survival choice. And that if they are returned to their countries of origin, they face serious threats to their life and to their freedom. So it's something that we are pushing on the advocacy front. And here again, just a little success story. So one of the justifications that the Obama administration gave for these deterrent and enforcement efforts was to basically say, but we're creating a safe and legal mechanism for people. It's called the Central American Minors Program, where they would be processed from inside their home countries, and they could apply to come to the United States. And why don't they do that instead of taking this dangerous trip through Mexico? Well, the fact of the matter was, eligibility for that program was extremely narrow. You had to have a parent, not any other relative, that would petition for you from the United States. The parent and the child both had to, at their own expense, go through DNA testing, $600 a shot. And the parent had to have a qualifying lawful status in the United States. And the child, and think about this one for a second, you have to establish the standard of meeting the refugee definition of a well-founded fear of being persecuted. But you had to do that from within your own country, and you had to wait inside your own country for about a year for 4 different interviews and DNA testing and cultural orientation training, if you get accepted, before you could come to the United States. I mean, it's ludicrous when you think about it. The idea that somebody's threatening my life, that's the only way I can qualify for this program, and in order to qualify for the program, I have to sit here while my life is being threatened, and if I leave the country, I'll no longer be eligible for this program. So we blasted this. I did an op-ed piece in the LA Times. We've done meetings with the White House, with DHS, with the State Department, on and on and on. I met with the ambassadors when I was in Honduras, when I was in Mexico as well, the US ambassadors there. And again, just in the last few weeks, the Obama administration has announced that it's going to expand refugee resettlement from within the region so that people can actually flee their country, flee from El Salvador or Honduras and go to another country and be resettled here in the United States. And there again, I think it's something where we, Human Rights Watch, made a real difference in bringing about that change and basically speaking truth to power and saying that, if you're really serious about saving people's lives, these are the steps that you need to take.
Yeah.